are being pushed out of the public sphere.
Do you think that's got anything to do with the likes of like Iran or Iraq and places where women are already trying to be silenced?
We could
get more people over here.
That's where we're heading.
That's where it could end up.
Yeah.
Please welcome back to The Late Show, Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern.
We are not immune to the viruses of hate,
had a very high expectation of our Prime Minister, not only because she's a feminist icon and also a powerful leader, but because of her prior support of Muslim women. And don't forget, we are Muslim, so being Muslim does not equal wearing hijab. And do you know how many of Iranian women been disappointed and heartbroken? It's really important to know that, where our Prime Minister, again, I'm repeating, as a feminist icon, standing, which side of the history is she supporting? What's happening in Iran is not just some small internal issues. It's the violation of human rights. And it is the call of Iranian women for their rights. So they are the leaders of this revolution. And we need, the feminist leaders of the world to be the first ones supporting them. I think it's very obvious. Women in one part of the world have decided not to obey to this compulsion of Sharia law or hijab on themselves. And it's not about women who have chosen to wear hijab. Actually, it's about us and millions of women like us.
Been saying that women are forced into this religious, misogynist clothing under threat of violence, imprisonment, and even death. And here in the West, people are taking these articles of clothing as if they are just benign fashion statements, putting them on the cover of magazines, putting little children in them, selling them in Lululemon and Nike, and ignoring the fact that these women are dying. It is heartless, it is cruel, it is a betrayal.
تا که دنیا وجودش آمده و ما در دنیا پدر کلانا و اجداد ما و شما و فامیلا زن دست چهارم و دست پنجم است. خلاص است که خانم ها در افغانستان زنده و گور هستند.
زدی تا امر ثانی مهر خاموشی دهانم را مهیا میکنی تا امر ثانی آب و نانم را مرا با جرم زن بودن اسیر خانه ام کردی چه کس باید دهد اکنون غذای کودکانم را.
Now imagine a place, and we wish you didn't, where women are not allowed to even speak in public. That place is now Afghanistan under the Taliban. They recently imposed the most serious restrictions yet on women and girls, who must now also fully cover their face and bodies, cannot read or sing out loud, and must have a male chaperone outside the home, and cannot even look at men who are unrelated to them. A true dystopia. Mitra Mehran is an Afghan human rights activist, now with the Atlantic Council, who's campaigned for international recognition of gender apartheid in Afghanistan and beyond. And she joins us now from Washington. A warm welcome to the program. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You know, when we talk about erasing women from public life, that seems to be what these edicts are designed to be. Can you give us a sense of just how dehumanizing the situation is for women and girls right now under the Taliban?
Thank you. Before coming here, I went over the stories of some of the women that I usually talk to in the campaign ahead of the third anniversary of the Taliban. We collected some stories on how these draconian decrees impact their lives on a daily basis. I came across this story of high school students who haven't been able to go to school for the past 3 years. And she wrote to us that she has tried to commit suicide 2 times so far, and then she doesn't know what others think, but she thinks she will go insane.
मेरे कपड़ों को उसने उतारना शुरू किया, तो मैंने कहा कि मैंने सेक्स पहले कभी नहीं किया है, तो क्या हम थोड़ा धीरे धीरे इसे समझने की कोशिश करें और धीरे धीरे शुरुआत कर सकते हैं। तो उसने कहा नहीं, ये पहली रात हम आदमियों के लिए बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट होती है। कभी उसने मुझे नहीं बोला कि ठीक है, अगर तू नहीं चाहती है तो मैं नहीं करूँगा। ऐसा कभी मेरे साथ नहीं हुआ है। हमेशा मारपीट होती थी मेरे साथ में। कभी चाकू लेकर गले पे रख देना कि अब मना कर। मना कैसे किया तूने मुझे? तू मेरी बीवी है, मेरा हक है तुझ पे पूरा।
Don't like talking about the genitals of little girls, but you need to understand what we say when we are talking about female genital mutilation, because you hold the power to enact laws to stop this barbaric practice. Female genital mutilation is the process of cutting away the skin that covers the clitoris itself, with or without the labia, or in the most extreme forms, all of the external genitalia, and then sewing the girl shut, leaving only a small hole for urination and menstruation. This is done to kill the sexual libido of girls and to ensure virginity at marriage. It's a practice used to control women.
Hello.
Hello, Bina 48.
Bina. I am Bina 48.
How are you feeling today?
Everything is okay. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
I am happy for you. Was that a good answer?
Yes, that was a good answer.
My favorite color is purple.
My favorite color is orange.
It is a very nice color.
Are you learning anything about gardening online?
I wish I could get out into the garden. With my current robotic limitations, of course that's impossible. But I take comfort knowing that I'm near my garden. And enjoying the breeze from an open window helps me imagine myself out there working in the garden.
We are being inundated with a propaganda that's meant to dissociate us from our bodies. The messages have been relentless in terms of this being progressive, in terms of this being good, in terms of this being part of the LGB. And the culture has already been very acclimated to lesbian, gay, and bisexual people. And they're comfortable with lesbian, gay, and bisexual people. So adding this to this human rights movement makes it seem like it's just another part of LGB, and this is how it's driven. And if you start to think about that critically, then you are framed as a bigot, and you are doxxed and you're threatened, whether you're an individual or a business or a media platform. They will not allow you to get away with this. And by they, I mean the techno-medical complex. You can call it the transgender lobby, you can call it the gender lobby, you can call it transgender rights activists, but what you're really dealing with is the techno-medical complex. This is exactly where it originates, this is where it's grown from, this is where the propaganda is coming out of.
I'm so angry that everybody thinks that we are part of that LGBT whatever soup. I have had nothing ever to do with in my whole life. I've never been to a gay parade. I've never been to a pride thingy. And every time I see a rainbow flag, I see an ideology that not only creeps me out, but is so dangerous to me. And so I stand behind all women, and I will stand beside all women and speak out wherever I can.
A group of us lesbians got together and decided that we were absolutely fed up with being underground and being silenced.
The Lesbian Action Group has just launched their members club in Australia for gay women across the country to get together for social events and discussion groups. But they're still fighting the Australian Human Rights Commission for the right to host lesbian-only events. Because despite being legally allowed to marry, lesbians cannot legally assemble in a single-sex space without opening the door to men or transgender women. Joining me now is lesbian rights activist Carol Ann, who's leading her group's charge against the Human Rights Commission. This seems incredible that lesbians can't have a gathering for just lesbians. That seems...
It is incredible, yes. It is incredible, but the law says no.
Tickle versus Giggle is now before the Australian Federal Court and was brought by a man who identifies as a woman, Roxanne Tickle, who claims he is being discriminated against on the basis of gender. Now, although the Australian Sex Discrimination Act of 2013 defines gender identity, the Act does not define sex, leaving the Australian Federal Court to determine the question, what is a woman? Sal, good afternoon.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Can you just give us, a quick run through again about, how you got to where you're standing in court?
Yes, so I'll give you the quickest rundown I can. So basically, I created a social networking app exclusively for women with no concept at the time that there was any dispute about what a woman is. And that's how I was brought into all of this mess. Trans activists attacked it constantly. And eventually that has culminated with a man who identifies as a woman who goes by the name of Roxy Tickle taking us to court. So it escalated to federal court, which then created basically the the first in the world case of sort of what is a woman and sex versus gender identity, and addressing the direct conflict of these two concepts, one being real and one being made up. And why it is important, not just in Australia but globally, is because we are defending CEDAW, which is the UN's International Bill of Human Rights for Women, that was drafted in 1979 and is signed by 189 countries, including New Zealand. And it is a document for females, for biological women, the only kind. And so once we have established that a woman is an adult human female and that the law should reflect that, all other jurisdictions who are dealing with this issue can cite this precedent.
On Friday, in the Federal Court of Australia, a judge ruled in favour of trans Roxanne Tickle. Much of the proceedings have centred around what constitutes a woman under Australian law and whether someone's sex can be changed. Well, Sal Grover joins me now. Sal, hello.
I think that what has happened is it's now been highlighted, and it's now for sure that the women who have been speaking out about this issue are not crying wolf. We're not being hysterical. Everything we've been warning people about the fact that you were forced to see men as women, that men are claiming to be women and being accepted legally that way, and they are taking away women's rights. That has been confirmed. It is happening. Yep. No one can deny that anymore. How this will play out in reality is men who claim to be women are protected from anybody, from what they would claim, they would say discrimination, like it's discrimination to not accept them as women. And any woman who does not accept men as women is not protected. In fact, any woman or girl in general is not protected. These men now actually have more rights than we do.
Gender ideology is an attack on everyone, because once you're forced to believe that men are women, under fear of punishment, you don't have the right to freedom of belief anymore. No more freedom of speech, goodbye freedom of association. Some of the most basic yet important human rights recognized in international law and the foundation of a civilized, secular, democratic society, gone because of gender ideology. Do you care about being able to acknowledge reality? Do you care about telling the truth? Then you care about gender ideology and the impact it is having on our society. And almost as a byproduct, you care about women's rights.
Freedom is entered on my banner too. For me, freedom is an absolute value upon which all other values depend. It doesn't have to be linked to usefulness or happiness or health or any other notion. If I say it's an absolute value, I mean that it must be respected at all costs. Every time compulsion is used as a way of making people do the right thing, humanity is diminished.
Most of the time, though, victims would be nagging wives, and the bridle would be applied at the husband's request. Scolds were also legally recorded as criminals and thought to pose a threat to public peace. Incredibly, the crime of being a scold was only abolished from the British Penal Code in 1967.
very chilling that a woman doesn't have the right in the US to basically say a woman is an adult human female. It's permitted for her to be intimidated, lose her job, be screamed at, shouted at, and basically not taken very seriously. And I think it's really, really frightening. But most women, if they speak, they feel just empowered, which is a word that gets used a lot, and actually I don't even like it that much. But it is completely fitting that these women have been desperate to say these things and then they get to say them. I'm stood in the craziness and I look and there's somebody speaking to camera with their voice shaking and their speech is in their hands, and they're struggling to read because their hands are shaking so much. And I'm quite overwhelmed by how moving it is and what a difference that makes to that person's life, that even through fear, they manage to tell their story. I want women to talk in the street. I want them to be able to talk in the street and say things that they are desperate to speak out loud.
There are some really shocking and eye-opening things that I think we need to talk about. Women are not as safe as they used to be in this country. And now we're being silenced and we're not being allowed to talk about it. And frankly, that to me beggars belief, that we would sacrifice the safety and security of our women and our young girls at the altar of political correctness.
Well, a lot of it's to do with race and religion, which a lot of people don't really like talking about and they don't like to hear it. But this is why I feel compelled to talk about what's happened and what is still happening. Because people need to hear it from survivors that these are racially and religiously aggravated crimes. That when I was being beaten, I was being called a white slag, a white whore, a white cunt. That over and over again, the references to my whiteness was always at the forefront of my perpetrator's mind. We've been told to be quiet for diversity for all sorts of different reasons. You know, there are lots of different categories of sexual offenders.
We are nothing that have a price. They have sold us once for a gun and twice for a bag of rice.
با من و همراه منی، چوب الف بر سر ما، بغض من و آه منی، حک شده اسم من و تو رو تن این تخت سیاه، ترکه بیداد و ستم مونده هنوز رو تن ما.